You're standing in front of a grill. The coals glow orange hot, throwing out waves of heat powerful enough to cook a steak in minutes. But look closely. There's almost no flame, almost no smoke, just steady, intense heat. That's strange when you think about it. Because charcoal starts as ordinary wood, the same wood that crackles, smokes, spits, sparks, and burns unpredictably. Yet somehow, after going through a process humans discovered thousands of years ago, that same wood becomes a fuel that burns hotter, cleaner, and longer than it did before. And here's the part that sounds impossible. Charcoal works because most of the original wood is gone. So why does taking something away make the fuel better? What exactly was removed, and how did an ancient technique become so important that modern industries still rely on it today? The answer involves controlled fire, oxygen starvation, and a transformation that completely changes the chemistry of wood itself. This is how charcoal is made and why it burns differently from almost anything else on Earth. What charcoal actually is. Most people think charcoal is just burnt wood. It's not. Here's the key distinction. When wood burns in open air, it's combustion, a rapid reaction with oxygen that releases energy, light, and a cloud of gases and smoke. Almost everything in the wood gets consumed. Charcoal is what happens when you take that process and deliberately cut off the oxygen. Without oxygen, wood doesn't burn. It transforms, the moisture evaporates, the gases escape, the complex organic compounds break apart. What remains is something almost entirely different. A dense, porous matrix of nearly pure carbon. That's charcoal, not burnt wood, cooked wood. And this idea isn't new. Humans have been making charcoal for at least 30,000 years. Ancient blacksmiths needed it to forge iron and bronze. Alchemists used it in their experiments. Armies depended on it to produce weapons at scale. The Industrial Revolution ran on it before coal took over. But the fascinating part isn't the history. It's the science happening inside the wood. And that's where things start to get surprising. The transformation process, stage 1. Choosing the right wood. It starts with selection. Not all wood makes good charcoal. Hardwoods, oak, hickory, maple are the gold standard. They're dense. They burn long and hot. They produce charcoal with a tight, durable structure. Softwoods like pine, they burn faster, produce more ash, and make weaker charcoal. They're not useless, but they're not ideal. The wood also needs to be relatively dry. Too much moisture and the process becomes inefficient. The wood spends all its energy releasing water before the real transformation can even begin. This is where traditional charcoal makers spent decades developing instinct, learning to read wood the way a chef reads meat. And the method they used for thousands of years was remarkably simple, almost primitive, yet it worked. Stage 2. The earth mound, ancient alchemy. Picture a large clearing in a forest. Workers stack logs carefully, almost like building a wooden cabin, into a dome shape, sometimes 10 feet high. Then they cover the entire structure with soil, clay, and turf. Every gap is sealed. Only a few small vents remain at the base to allow just enough airflow to sustain the smolder inside. A small fire is lit at the bottom. And then you wait. The wood inside doesn't burst into flame. There isn't enough oxygen for that. Instead, it slowly smolders. The temperature climbs. Moisture pours out through the vents as steam, gases seep out, and deep inside that sealed mound, the wood quietly changes. This process, called pyrolysis, can take 3 to 10 days. Charcoal makers would circle the mound constantly, reading the color of the smoke escaping through the vents. White smoke meant moisture was still leaving. Yellow or brown smoke meant the volatile gases were burning off. Once the smoke turned thin and almost clear, the transformation was nearly complete. It was an art form, and one mistake, one cracked seal that let too much oxygen in, could ruin the entire batch, or worse, ignite it completely. But that's only part of the story. Stage 3. Modern kilns and controlled environments. Today, most commercial charcoal doesn't come from earth mounds. It comes from steel or brick kilns, essentially giant sealed chambers built to do the same job, but faster and with far more control. Inside a modern kiln, wood is loaded and sealed. External heat is applied from outside the chamber. The temperature is raised steadily to between 300 degrees Celsius and 500 degrees Celsius. No oxygen gets in. The pyrolysis happens in hours instead of days. But the real innovation came with retort systems. In a retort, the gases released during pyrolysis, methane, carbon monoxide, tar vapors, aren't wasted. They're captured, cleaned, and fed back into the burner as fuel. The system essentially powers itself. It's faster, more efficient, and produces far less pollution than any earlier method. A retort can produce a full batch of charcoal in as little as 8 hours, and the quality is consistent every single time. This is where things get surprising, because the science happening inside those kilns explains everything about why charcoal burns so differently. Stage 4. What pyrolysis actually does to wood. Here's the chemistry, simplified. At around 200 degrees Celsius, water locked inside the wood begins to evaporate. The wood starts to darken. Between 300 degrees Celsius and 400 degrees Celsius, the real breakdown begins. The complex molecules that make up wood, cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, begin to shatter. Volatile compounds escape as gases. Tars boil off. The wood structure collapses inward. Above 400 degrees Celsius, what's left is almost entirely carbon, a rigid, porous skeleton that once held living wood fibers. That structure is why charcoal burns so differently. Wood contains water and volatile gases that must be burned off before it generates real heat, which is why a wood fire produces so much smoke and fluctuates so much. Charcoal has already lost all of that. When you light charcoal, almost all the energy goes straight into heat. No wasted combustion, no plumes of smoke, just focused, intense, consistent heat. It's essentially pre-refined fuel, wood that already did the hard work. And the cooling step after pyrolysis is just as critical as the heating. If charcoal is exposed to oxygen while still hot, it can spontaneously ignite. Kilns and mounds are sealed and left to cool for hours, sometimes an entire day, before they're opened. The real challenge comes next, getting that charcoal from raw chunks to the clean, uniform product people actually use. Stage 5. Finishing briquettes and sorting. Once cooled and removed, large solid chunks go straight to bagging. Those are your premium lump charcoal products, dense, irregular, and beloved by grilling purists. But the fragments, dust, and smaller pieces, they don't go to waste. They're compressed with natural binders like starch, pressed into uniform pillow shapes, and dried. That's a briquette. Invented in the 1920s by Henry Ford. Yes, that Henry Ford. To use the wood scraps from his car factory. Briquettes burn more evenly and last longer, making them perfect for long cooks. Lump charcoal burns hotter but faster, better for high-heat grilling. Same material, different form, different purpose. Charcoal isn't just a grilling fuel, it's one of the most versatile materials on the planet. In metallurgy, it's used to smelt metals because of how cleanly it burns. In water filtration, activated charcoal, an ultra-processed form, absorbs contaminants at the molecular level. In medicine, it's used in emergency rooms to treat poisoning. In the tech industry, it plays a role in producing the silicon used in semiconductors. Globally, over 50 million tons of charcoal are produced every year. In sub-Saharan Africa, charcoal is the primary cooking fuel for hundreds of millions of people. It's not a luxury product. For much of the world, it's a daily necessity, and the push for sustainable charcoal is growing. Producers now use coconut shells, bamboo, and agricultural waste to make charcoal without cutting down forests. Retort systems reduce emissions dramatically compared to old earth mounds. The ancient craft is quietly becoming a modern science. Here's what makes charcoal remarkable. It starts as wood, something abundant, ordinary, alive. Then, through heat, patience, and the deliberate removal of oxygen, it becomes something entirely different. Denser, purer, more powerful. The same process that ancient smiths used beside open fire pits is now running inside precision-engineered retort chambers. The principles haven't changed, only the tools have. So, the next time you light a grill or see charcoal at the store, remember what you're actually looking at. It's not burnt wood, it's wood that has been fundamentally transformed, stripped down to its purest form so it can burn better, hotter, and cleaner than it ever could before. That's not just chemistry. That's 30,000 years of human ingenuity, compressed into a small black block. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. That already puts you ahead of most viewers. If you're curious about the hidden side of everyday things, subscribe for more and let me know in the comments what we should break down next.